What's going on, guys? It's Gendo here, and welcome to the 1 year anniversary Gendo FM AMA video. And I'd like to thank everybody who submitted questions on Twitter, and also to the various subscribers and followers and viewers. I couldn't have done without you guys. You guys are absolute legends. So thank you. Keep on doing what you do and help continue to make the channel grow bigger and better. So before we get into the questions submitted by you, the users, let's go over some frequently asked questions that pop up all the time on YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. So first, down the line, Brian Gendo, is that your real name? Brian, yes. Gendo, no. Gendo is actually taken from an anime called Neon Genesis Evangelion. I'm a big anime fan, and Evangelion is one of those sci-fi robot mecha that I really gravitate towards, kind of like Gundam Wing or Outlaw Star. If you don't know anything about anime and you really like big robots and big robots, mechs, and you like sci-fi stuff, I recommend those anime. Check them out. But Gendo is the main character's father, has a beard, has an awesome pair of shades, and is honestly a complete and total badass. Just does not give a damn about anything that he or anybody else in his organization says. So that's where Gendo comes from, that because of an anime. Number 2, where do you live? I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, in the United States, which would lead right into this next question. What teams do you support? Well, first and foremost, I support the Chicago Fire, even though they should be called the Chicago Tire Fire at this point in time, since they are the worst team in the MLS, and they have been the worst team over the last couple of seasons. They came in the last place in the 2015 season, and then the season before that, they set the MLS record for most draws in a season. 18 draws in 34 matches. Now that's really abysmal, and already the team's starting to clean house. I believe we only have 12 active players on the roster. We have a new coach, the Serbian under 20 World Cup winning coach, so I believe it's Veljko Panovic. Yeah, Veljko Panovic. Hopefully he can bring in some Serbian guys to help fill out the roster, because, well, this team just really needs a shakeup from the top down. And right now the chairman isn't doing much with the money that we have. I feel like Chicago is the Newcastle of the MLS, where they have a chairman that doesn't do anything with the money it's spent. He makes poor decisions, poor managing choices, poor personnel choices. Hopefully he got it right with Panovic, and he can revamp the squad into his image. Now, outside the MLS, the team I support the most and have followed the most since 2010, when I got into football, started watching football, is Everton. And the reason behind me supporting Everton is because January, February 2010, when I really picked up football, started to understand the game and enjoy the game, Everton had arguably the two best U.S. players at the time, Landon Donovan and Tim Howard. And I felt that, the two best U.S. national team players are going to be on this team. I might as well give them a look to see how this team is going about. And I don't think they did that badly. I think they finished like 7th, 6th. I think they were in European placements at the end of 2010, and then the whole lead up into the World Cup. Once the World Cup came and went, and Landon Donovan went back to the LA Galaxy, Tim Howard stayed around. Tim Howard was probably one of the top 5 goalkeepers of the Premier League for a good couple of years. So I felt that Everton had a good team on their hands. Unfortunately, they just haven't cobbled anything together to win a Premier League title in my lifetime. I believe the only trophy they have won within the last 28 years of my existence is the FA Cup, and that was in 1995. So yeah, hopefully within the next 10 years that we could probably win another piece of silverware. Capital One Cup this year, that would be amazing if we can hold on to our current lead over Manchester City, and then beat whoever comes out of the other side, Liverpool or Stoke. That'd be a Merseyside derby for a cup final. And the final frequently asked question is, how did you get into Football Manager? Well, that basically happened around the same time as the 2010 World Cup. Once that came and went, I wanted to know more. I wanted to know not just about the Premier League. Obviously, there were more leagues than the MLS and the Premier League, and I was browsing forums one day, and someone was talking about this game called Football Manager, and I piqued my interest, like, what's Football Manager? Found out that it was more of a management simulation. You weren't actually playing the games like you did for FIFA. And at the time, I was already doing some sort of like general manager management simulations already with games like MLB The Show and Madden NFL football. So I didn't feel like it was that much of a stretch to translate over into playing that game, and it just opened my eyes into a whole new level of footballing knowledge, and obviously creating the tactics and squad building that really appealed to me. And from there, it just, my interest continued to grow and grow and grow. My knowledge continued to grow and grow and grow about the world leagues. And that's where we come to today, where half of my knowledge, at least half of my knowledge of football around the world has come from Football Manager. I wouldn't have known about half these teams or half these players if not for Football Manager. So I really gotta thank them for, not just starting my interest, but also continuing to grow my interest in the world of football. Right, so now that the frequently asked questions have come and gone, let's take a look at your user questions that you posted on Twitter with the hashtag AskGendo. So let's take a look at the first one, and it is from That One FIFA. Ask Gendo, did it hurt when you fell from heaven? So that's how we're going to start it. Yeah, no, I'm definitely not from heaven. Definitely burned my ass when I was coming up from hell. Next question from They Think It's All Over. Brian Gendo, who is your best ever regen? Hashtag AskGendo. Now, I have obviously had a lot of regens throughout my FMs, from FM11 all the way up until now, but I didn't hold on to a long-term save as much as I did last game in the Hexagon Challenge for FM15. Now, if you want to go back and watch that series, by all means, go ahead. It's 120 episodes of me trying to struggle up through the ranks. I think that took about like 25 years. It took a long ass time. By the middle of the season, or by the middle of the game, obviously all these teams were switching out real players with regen, so I was bound to come across a few good ones. That said, I'm going to highlight a couple ones from my last two teams in Toronto FC and Benfica, because I feel like those were the best regens that I ever had in any FM game, and they all came within like 5 years of each other, in-game years. The two I'm going to point out from Toronto FC, midfielder Tab Yazzie and Zach Strand. Zach Strand already was an icon at Toronto FC before I got there, but after a few seasons of goal-scoring prolificness, as well as a CONCACAF Champions League, he became a legend. So I turned an icon into a legend at Toronto FC. Zach Strand was the main man up front and getting all the goals for Toronto FC. And the main man who was the leading assister on the team was none other than Tab Yazzie. He was very quick. I believe he's a 15-16 pace. He had some great vision, good technical abilities in terms of passing the ball, able to find the hole and allow Zach Strand to get all those goals for Toronto FC. So those two were some of my best regens for Toronto. And then in my final team with Benfica, who won the UEFA Champions League after 3 seasons there, I need to highlight midfielder Nuno Correa and Emilio Morales. Once again, it was pretty much the same type of partnership that happened at Toronto FC, where Nuno Correa was the defensive mid / center mid who was able to anchor that line, as well as move the ball from the back to the front up into Emilio Morales, who was scoring goals for fun pretty much at his time at Benfica. So I'm sorry I can't really say who was my best ever regen, but those 4, I highlight those 4 from my last 6 seasons of the Hexagon challenges. They were quite honestly the best regens that I ever had in any FM game. Next up, Completely Chaz FM says, probably already asked, but what was your first live football experience and how did you get into FM? Well, that second question I already went over in the frequently asked questions, but what was your first ever live football experience? My first ever live football experience was a big event. It was the 2013 Gold Cup Final, which was held in Soldier Field in downtown Chicago. It was United States versus Panama, and it was a really, really exciting crowd. It was a very electric crowd, and it was an interesting match throughout. And I remember when Breck Shea was being subbed on, I believe it was the 60th, 61st minute, I saw him subbed on. I just remember in the back of my head his Football Manager cutout that's sorted out as I had, and he looked very, very much like a crackhead. And I turned to the guys next to me saying, oh, crackhead Shea, he's not going to do much anything for the U.S. He's just going to run up and down the wing, be a distraction, and that's pretty much all he's going to do. 4 minutes later, Breck Shea gets the match winner. I was like, oh, okay, I totally take back what I said about Breck Shea, as he just wins the U.S. a gold cup. So that was my first ever live football experience. Of course, I've been to a bunch of Chicago Fire matches since then, not all that good, but I'm trying to find more and more football matches to go to. I would like to travel to other stadiums, not just in the U.S., but around the world, especially in England. I would like to take in a Premier League match at, like, I don't know, either Everton, of course, maybe somewhere else, I don't know. But I would like to travel around the world and try and take in a football match on every continent, if I can. Ellis says, thoughts on Moreno? Decent. Calm LTFC says, ask Gendo, what is the plan if West Ham sack you? Now, of course, he's referring to the If I Had a Hammer save, my West Ham United save. What happens if West Ham sack me? Then I'm more than likely just going to stop the series. I mean, that's plain and simple. I may then focus solely on Sheffield FC, or I could start up a whole new series. I mean, I've been dealing with a lot of Premier League teams for the last few years in FM. So maybe if I start up a new series, it's going to be out of the country. It's not going to be MLS. It may be somewhere in mainland Europe. So maybe Spain, Italy, France, Germany, wherever. Just try it. And actually, now that I think about it, that could possibly be a good idea. And like try and take a middle of the league team and topple the top teams that are in that country. So yeah, that's a thought, but as of right now, I'm not sacked from West Ham, so I'm not going to be thinking about any new series for the time being. Owen Harmon says, ask Gendo, who is your all-time sporting hero or heroes? Now, of course, growing up in Chicago, number one has got to be Michael Jordan. He was big in his prime during my childhood, and every kid looked up to him. Not just him, but the entirety of those 90s Chicago Bulls teams. As you know, you had Michael Jordan, you had Scottie Pippen, not so much in Dennis Rodman, he was kind of the wild one, but Michael Jordan definitely, as he arguably is the greatest NBA player of all time. Peter Pocket Gaming says, ask Gendo, where do you see the Chicago Fire finishing this season? Well, I did address this earlier on in the video, but to reiterate, I do hope to see the Chicago Fire finishing right around mid-table, 10th, 11th place. I do hope that it all hinges on their new signings. I do hope that they can bring in some better players to help bolster up that squad, because right now it's not looking too good. So yeah, hopefully mid-table. I don't expect anything higher than that. Calm LTFC asks another question. He says, ask Gendo, would you like to be famous like Spencer Owen one day? Okay. Spencer Owen pretty much is the pinnacle of FIFA footballers, FIFA YouTubers. He's also got his own marketing. He's got a great personality. He's got a great girlfriend who does the same, has the same personality. Does a lot of traveling, and obviously handsome. He's pretty much the anti-me. Okay, I'm American. I'm an FM streamer, FM YouTuber, and this is pretty much an ugly mug. I mean, who's gonna wanna go for this? So, as much as I would want to be famous like Spencer, it's just not gonna happen. That's pretty much out of the realm of possibility at this point. Dr. Benji FM says, Brian Gendo, if there's a football match in history you wish you could have been at, what would it be? Now, that's a really good question, because my current knowledge of football is only 5 years deep. I mean, I tried to look up as much history as I can, but obviously there isn't a lot that I can do about that. I think like 1950 World Cup final, Brazil and Uruguay, that would have been a good one to be at. Going to the Maracanã with 200,000 people watching Brazil get stunned into silence. The 1966 World Cup, I know, is probably a big one on everybody's list, especially everybody over in England, to watch that live. Just see, that awesome extra time between England and West Germany. Probably watching Chicago Fire win their first and only MLS Cup back in 1998, or any of their U.S. Open Cup matches, just because. Probably Everton winning the FA Cup in 1995. I would like to go on to see that. But there's so many to pick out. There's so many to go through. But I think I'm going to go with the big one, the obvious one pretty much, the 1966 World Cup final. Matt Hall asks, Brian Gendo, what is the best player you've seen in person and who is the worst? Well, this is also, limited amount of knowledge, limited amount of football games that I've actually been to. Probably the best player I've ever seen in person would have to go to go back to the 2013 Gold Cup final, and that was Landon Donovan. As far as the worst, take your pick out of anybody in the 2015 Chicago Fire roster, because all of them were bad. Liam Thompson asks, Brian Gendo, would you rather be the worst player on a great team or the best player in average sides? That's a good question, too. Would I rather be the worst player in a great team, which means that I would probably be sitting on the bench, I wouldn't be on the pitch winning a cup or a league title. I'd just be like, yay, good job, team, I didn't do anything. Or would I be the best player on average side, meaning that you know, be mid-table, lower mid-table, but I would be the one to lead the charge, and me being a goalkeeper, like probably making some pretty solid saves that help keep the team within several matches, and like I said, to keep them above relegation. I would honestly have to be the best player in the average side, because your name would stand out more. You would be looked at as, you know, this good player that's, you know, keeping the teams in matches, like I said before. So I would have to say best player in average side. Another one from Pita Pocket Gaming says, ask Gendo, what are your thoughts on pizza? Pizza good. Pizza very good. And growing up in Chicago, of course, not only would we have our thin crust, but of course you have your deep dish. So definitely on my deep dish. If no one knows what a deep dish is, it's basically like a pizza cake. I know a lot of people have said that outside Chicago, you could drown in your pizza, and this is true. It's pretty thick. It's about that thick a pizza, filled with cheese toppings and then layered of sauce on top of it, and of course the crust coming around the sides. Now my ideal deep dish pizza is Canadian bacon and mushroom. That shit is the bomb. But all other times, if I go for a normal thin crust, smog. SMOG, sausage, mushrooms, onions, green peppers. That is probably the two best ideal pizzas for me, hands down. And keeping with the food theme, Ray asks, chicken nuggets or cheeseburger? That's just two separate things. Ray, I like them both, but you can't just put out, do you like a chicken or you do like a cheeseburger, because I love them both. For the sake of answering the question, I'm gonna go with chicken nuggets, because you know, all those different dipping sauces you get from like a McDonald's or a Burger King, where you get the ranch, you get the honey mustard, you get the barbecue sauce. I'm just going to have to go with the chicken nuggets. Another question from Dr. Benji says, Brian Gendo, what do you think your first save of Football Manager 2017 will be? Now that's really thinking far in advance. That's 10 months down the road, Ben. If I had to go with a Football Manager save to start off with, I don't think it would be a Premier League side. Because, like I said before, I've done so many Premier League saves that I may want to pull it back. Maybe go to Ireland, maybe go to Scotland, maybe go to mainland Europe as my start. I don't know. At this point in time, Ben, I don't know. All I say is that it probably will not be a Premier League side. Mick Marr Jr. says, Brian Gendo, if you could live in another country, be it due to culture, lifestyle, or sports, where would it be and why? Now, that's a really good question, Mick. I've lived in Australia for 4 weeks due to a student ambassadorship back in 2001. I thought it was really cool down there. This was also in the middle of July, so it was in the middle of winter for Australia, but it wasn't that cold. I mean, Australian winters, especially living near the coast, because I was in Sydney, definitely wasn't as cold as I thought it would be. It dropped down to about, 45, 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So not all that cold, not all that bad. The people there are very friendly. It was obviously a very nice city. I also have traveled outside the United States. I've traveled to Denmark, and I think Denmark is pretty much the closest you can get to being foreign, and as but still being close to home, because in Denmark, not only do they speak Danish, but also English. They're very fluent in English. I also like old buildings. Culture is what I factor into the most, because I absolutely love old architecture. I'm going to say this right now. So if I go to England, I'm pretty sure I'm going to love it there. If I go to Denmark, definitely loved all the old, looking at the old castles, looking at all the old architectures, going through the pedestrian plaza and look at buildings that are 200, 300 years old. That appeals to me. Lifestyle wouldn't have changed all that much. Sports I don't factor into it. It would have to be mostly the lifestyle and the culture. And for that, pretty much you can rule out Asia. As much as I want to travel to like Japan, South Korea one day, I want to stick to, if I had to move away from the United States, or move away from North America in general, I'd probably move to somewhere in Europe. Maybe either England, maybe go to Germany, maybe go to Denmark. Let's say one of those three places. Two Man Brunch Party asks, straight up, who's your all-time favorite Canadian? Now that is a question, because I can't really pinpoint like what genre. Because are you talking about sports? Are you talking about acting? Are you talking about comedy? Or are you talking about music? Because if we had to go with the comedy route, probably my two favorite Canadians there would be Jim Carrey and Colin Mockery. If we had to go through the musical route, my all-time favorite band is Rush. So Alex Lifeson, Geddy Lee, Neil Peart. As far as, you know, other singers, probably Robert Goulet as well. But if you had to go with one all-time favorite Canadian, I'd have to go with Jim Carrey, just because his comedy is great. He's an absolutely funny guy. And Callum once again asks, who is better, Messi or Ronaldo? And I feel like this is going to be the God question for the next 10 years or so, as long as these two players are still within the game of football. Messi and Ronaldo are great within their own rights. I think Messi is more of the best pure out-and-out strikers in the world. He's probably hands down the best striker in the world. Ronaldo is more of a better all-around player. He can not only strike the goals, he can help out with the assists. He's a great free kick taker. He's a great penalty taker. He has better vision than Messi when it comes to making plays, whereas Messi's just eye for goal and that's it. And that's not taken away from Messi, because like I said, he's the greatest out-and-out striker, but I think Ronaldo is the slightly better player just because he's a little more well-rounded. And that's it. That concludes the AMA. I'd like to give personal shout-outs to everybody who asked me a question. You guys have really helped me out and couldn't have done without you guys. And to everybody who watched, I hope that gives you a little bit more insight into the life and knowledge of Brian Gendo. If you have any more questions, please don't hesitate to ask. You can ask me on Twitter, @BrianGendo. You don't even have to put Ask Gendo anymore. You can just message me like that, and more than likely I'll get around to answering you. But here's to at least one more year on YouTube, and definitely another year of growth. Hopefully we can get 500 subs this time around. Not 500 added on to what I have right now. Probably more realistic goal is 500 subs by this time next year. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like what you saw, please hit the like button. Subscribe if you are new and you want to see any new FM content on the channel. Any comments, suggestions, questions, anything else, please leave in the comment box down below. But as always, this is Gendo, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, and peace out.